Okay, today we're back out here with the Lawn Boy, still having the same problems as before, where it doesn't necessarily want to run at full RPM and just in general causing some problems. So today we're going to go ahead and pull off the carb and see if we can clean it, maybe make some adjustments if at all possible, and then put it back together and give her a test. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try and pull this carb without pulling the top cover and everything. It's really not that difficult to do. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and pop the air filter cover off. Quite simple. All you have to do is take a screwdriver, pop that tab, air cleaner cover comes off, air cleaner comes out. Try and keep that as clean as possible. Now we'll go ahead and get down there for you so you can see what we're going to do next. Okay, next up we're going to go ahead and remove the carb. If you see these two holes right here and then also here, those are access holes so that you can get the carb off. There's two Phillips head screws back in there, so just kind of feel around for a moment, give it a little bit of a roll, I guess, and get these guys out of here. It'll be no problem. Carb is going to drop down. We'll have to remove the fuel line for the primer bulb, and then the fuel line, goodness, and then the fuel line for the bowl. Again, no big deal. There we go. Alrighty, now give me a moment to free up these two lines and I'll be right back. Okay, I want to go ahead and try and point out something right now. I was unaware before that the carb actually, that the slider flips. Now this is a problem I had been noticing, where I would set it all the way over to normal and then it would want to slide back towards light, and this, if you're unaware, this is the throttle control, right? So I knew that I was having a little bit of an issue there, but I didn't think much. However, I didn't realize, if you look on the top here, you'll probably notice how right here it's got a little clip so that it'll lock it in the normal position, or really the high throttle position. Again, didn't know that before, so maybe that's my problem, maybe it's not, doesn't matter. I'm going to pull it apart and at least clean this the best I can. My spare lawnmower, I had a couple gaskets that can certainly be reused, so I think I'm going to be all set for spare parts here. Won't necessarily have to order anything up. Just so that you can have a general overview, again, this is where the air flows in, and then this top piece right here is what the vanes on the top of the mower, you know, they're blowing air on this. And as the RPMs climb and they're able to blow this farther back, this actually, if you look in there, this actually cuts off the throttle. So when it's like this and it's not being blown open, wide open throttle, RPMs raise until it shuts it off, and obviously, ideally, I should say, it'll even out somewhere in here about wide open throttle. So either way, that's how it functions. So I guess, and I've always been very overly careful with this, because this is old and brittle plastic, which I know, and I don't want it to have any problems, so I've always been kind of easy on it. Alright, let's go ahead and pull this apart though, and see where we can go from here. Alright, so we've gone ahead and cleaned it up at least a little bit, not totally of course, but we're getting there. If you look at the bottom of the carb, you can see that there are 4 screws that hold it in. They're Phillips head, those hold the bowl on. Let's go ahead and pull those Phillips head screws out so that we can have the bowl off and get a good inspection of what's going on in there. Who knows what we're going to find. Okay, we've got the bowl off, and that exposes the float right here. If you go ahead and pull out this sort of brass pin looking thing, set that probably in the bowl back here, so that you don't lose it. And there's a little bit of dirt in that bowl, just so we're all good on that. You can go ahead and pull the float off. Don't lose that needle guy in there, because that needle thing back there is apparently fairly important. I don't really know. It's a carburetor. Is that how you pronounce these things? So remove the screen, and that'll expose your primary jet. And more dirt crap in there, so this is definitely going to need a decent cleaning. We'll go ahead and do that. This is the needle seat area, so we'll want to clean both of these. To remove both of them, you can go ahead and use a flathead screwdriver, so I'll go ahead and do that next. I'm going to go ahead and just try and do this somewhat out of the way here to where you can see. You'll probably want to use a little bit wider screwdriver than what I'm using here, but it's just into some plastic, so it's not a high torque application. We're not going to be stripping anything out by doing this. Alright, there we go, got that. And honestly, looking fairly clean in there from what I can see so far. This whole carb is looking pretty good. To be quite honest with you, at this point I'm thinking this might be an embarrassing situation. Now this jet wasn't fully seated up in there. That could be an issue. But I think this might be an embarrassing situation of just not necessarily understanding that the carb had those locking ears on it. Because certainly, if you don't have the ears going there. Alright, and then we got this guy here. Definitely a little bit of junk on there. Maybe let's say junk or dried crap. Don't know. But either way, we're going to go ahead and set this to the side. We'll clean this in a minute. And yeah, looking pretty good there. So, not the end of the world, but certainly not the cleanest thing either. Another thing I want to point out, this one apparently does have an adjustment for the jet on top. I've seen that before for some of the carbs. There are differences between the carbs in general, by the way. I'm going to actually have to reference my Lawn Boy manual. This one has the adjustment with a little hex nut on the top. I've got another one with it's right over somewhere, and that one's got the screw on the side. So I've got multiple, even though they're both 7229 Lawn Boy mowers. Let me double check here. The first one was made in 78. The one that I did today was made in 79. So that could be the difference there, just a small running change to the carb. But either way, we'll go ahead and get this thing all cleaned up a little bit prettier, and we'll be good to go. So, be back in a moment. Alright guys, you know what? I just went ahead and cleaned everything with a can of carb cleaner and put it back together. We're going to find out if what little cleaning we did, and then actually adjusting that top rod to be all the way over into the normal setting is alright. It's, you know, labeled normal and light. When I first got this thing, I saw where it said light speed, and I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be the only setting that I mow on. But then I saw over there it said normal. Light speed isn't for super fast mowing. Light speed is for really not good cutting, where if you're, let's say you can go no faster than your average sulcata tortoise, then the light setting might be for you. But the rest of us are going to want it the normal setting. So I've got it locked down there. Again, nothing fancy that I did here. Cleaned everything very thoroughly with some carb cleaner, including that primary jet deal, that little airway thing, whatever that is, that hole that's in the middle of it. I don't know. I can do my own fuel injection like it's nobody's business, but these carburetors, Lord only knows. So anyway, cleaned that out real well. The float looked okay. You got to look out because I guess the ethanol and fuel will degrade the float pretty severely. Actually, if I grab this float from back here, you can see how this one is kind of black and crappy looking, much worse than the other float that was in it. It's kind of interesting because almost everything in this carb that I was using looks better than my spare carb, with the exception of the gaskets. I think maybe somebody maybe looked at it and let the gas sit in there for too long on that other one. Who knows? But anyway, we're going to go ahead and put this back on. I've got another gasket again that came off my spare lawnmower. This baby was basically brand new. It looks like, again, somebody probably put this thing on the mower and then let it sit with fuel in the bowl, so it kind of ate out that float a little bit. But outside of that, we're going to be good to go. We're going to put this carb back on the mower. We're going to hook the fuel lines back up first, and then we're going to go ahead and mow and see if this thing will get us any closer to a good mowing like we've had in the past with this thing. Because I got to tell you, nothing is more pleasurable than mowing with a vintage two-stroke Lawn Boy. No safety features from the government telling me how I've got to live my life. No frills, no oil, no parts with valves and all that other business weighing you down. This is just raw, unadulterated 1970s lawn mowing at its best. Alright, just to show you guys who weren't aware, hadn't seen this before, if you tilt the mower on its side, being gentle, and of course making sure you don't have it full of fuel or something stupid like that. Of course, fuel shut-off valve off anyway. But in there, you can see the reed valve, and that's the area where you're going to bolt the carb back up to. A gasket goes in between the carb and the mower, obviously. The smaller hose here is for your primer bulb, and the larger hose is for the fuel to the bowl. I'm going to go ahead and again set these two things back on the carb, the two lines, put the two screws in there like before, and then we should be able to give it a go and see if it works. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go ahead and mow the lawn this time. Last time, if you followed my previous video, you'll remember that I kind of declared a little bit of victory there before mowing the lawn. Again, the problem with this thing is that when you get it under some load, it just doesn't have the power to cut through the grass, even if it's not tall at all. So we'll go ahead and cut the lawn, and then we'll report back to see how we did. Okay, here we are, fresh off the lawn mowing. If you listen very closely in the background, you can hear the sounds of my lawn begging for mercy. This is the best I've had this lawn boy performing since I've owned it. I'd like to say that it's because I cleaned the carb and sharpened up the blade a little and cleaned the crud out from the bottom and the lawnmower and the muffler and the ports and that, but I think mainly it's because I actually clicked it all the way over to normal speed. Nonetheless, it's still running much better than I've ever had it going before, so I think a contribution of other factors is at hand here. And I'm really happy that I got this thing kind of carburetor inspected, ports cleaned out and everything. It's probably due up for most of that anyway, as I have run it for a couple years now with only very minor maintenance. I'm going to go ahead and take it back into the garage, blow off all the fresh clippings, and get ready to do some weed whacking. But until next time, keep those old lawn boys going, guys.